The scream tore through the night like a blade, raw, desperate, swallowed by the thunder of hooves. In the flickering torchlight of a rain-slicked road near Reigate Castle, Alice de Lacy, Countess of Lincoln and Lancaster, felt rough hands seize her waist. She twisted, nails raking flesh, but the iron grip only tightened. Her horse reared, panicked as the abductors dragged her from the saddle. One man's breath was hot against her ear. "You will be mine before dawn, my lady. Your lands, your body, mine." The world spun into darkness as they bound her wrists, the coarse rope biting into skin. She was 24, widowed, wealthy beyond measure, and suddenly utterly alone. That was the brutal reality for noblewomen in medieval Europe. In the 12th and 13th centuries, a woman's inheritance was not her shield, it was her peril. Alice de Lacy's story was no isolated tragedy. Born in 1281, daughter of the powerful Earl of Lincoln, she inherited vast estates, lands that could shift the balance of kingdoms. At 12, she was married to Thomas of Lancaster, cousin to King Edward II, a union arranged to bind alliances and secure power. Thomas was executed in 1322 for rebellion, leaving Alice a widow at 41. Her wealth made her a prize. Ambitious lords saw opportunity, abduct her, force a marriage, and claim her fortune. The church preached free consent, but the sword often spoke louder. Canon law, shaped by Gratian's Decretum in the 12th century and Pope Alexander III's Decretals, insisted that marriage required mutual consent, no force, no coercion. A forced union could be annulled, yet in practice, secular power crushed these ideals. The 1275 Statute of Westminster, under Edward the Fourth, outlawed the ravishment of maidens or wives against their will, threatening imprisonment or forfeiture. But enforcement was weak. Chronicles and court records, as detailed by historian Caroline Dunn in Stolen Women in Medieval England, show abductions were rampant. Widows and heiresses like Alice were targeted relentlessly. Her first abduction in 1322 led to a forced marriage to John de Warenne, Earl of Surrey, who seized her lands in retaliation against Lancaster's kin. She fought, but the system favored the captor. Imagine the dread. A young noblewoman raised in silk and ceremony, trained to obey father, guardian, king. She knows her beauty is a weapon, her body a currency. Forbidden desires flicker in the shadows. The touch of a lover she can never claim, the heat of a glance across a crowded hall, the promise of passion stolen from duty. But resistance? It invites ruin. Pressure builds quietly at first. Whispers from family, promises of alliance, threats veiled as concern. Marry him and all will be well. Then the tension snaps. Raiders strike at night, horses pounding through mist-shrouded forests. A woman is torn from her chamber, cloak ripped away, breath stolen by fear. The captor's hands linger too long, his voice low and possessive. "You will learn to want this." Alice endured it twice. After her first forced marriage collapsed, she wed again, perhaps for love, to Sir Eubulot Lestrange. But when he died, Hugh de Freyne abducted her at 54, raped her, and compelled marriage to secure her estates. She petitioned the king for redress, her words raw with betrayal. "Treachery has stripped me of all." The church might annul such unions on grounds of non-consent, but the damage was done. Lands seized, dignity shattered, life reduced to endless cycles of coercion. Even the mighty faced this. Eleanor of Aquitaine, Duchess of Aquitaine, and one of the wealthiest women in Europe, annulled her marriage to Louis VII in 1152 on consanguinity grounds. Freed, she became prey. As she rode from Beaugency to Poitiers, 2 attempts were made to seize her, by Geoffrey of Anjou and Theobald of Blois. She evaded them, her pulse racing, body alert to every shadow. In those moments, the air itself felt thick with threat. A woman alone, her lands a temptation, her beauty a lure. Yet Eleanor chose her fate. She sent for Henry Plantagenet, Duke of Normandy, and married him swiftly, forging an empire. Her defiance was rare, a spark of agency in a world that sought to extinguish it. The escalation was relentless. Quiet coercion, family councils, betrothals sealed with wax, gave way to violence. A woman's resistance invited retaliation, disinheritance, imprisonment, rape to force consummation and bind the marriage irrevocably. Canon law offered hope, but kings and lords often ignored it. Primary sources, chronicles, petitions, court rolls paint a grim picture. Jennifer Ward's studies of noblewomen reveal how abductions targeted the wealthy, stripping them of autonomy. Dunn's research uncovers over 1,000 cases of ravishment, many involving heiresses like Alice and Eleanor. For modern eyes, the parallels sting. Today, women still navigate coercive control where choice hides under pressure, legal systems that fail victims, inheritance tied to marriage, public humiliation for defiance, the suffocating dread of a life decided by others, the anger at injustice where consent is ignored. These are not relics of the past. They echo in courtrooms, relationships, headlines. Alice's story is a warning. The chains of dynasty bound women tight. Defiance often brought worse suffering, yet in that darkness, flickers of resilience shone. Eleanor's bold choice, Alice's petitions for justice. The dread builds, the anger simmers, and as the chapter closes, we leave Alice in her tower, wrists still marked by rope, eyes fixed on the horizon. Freedom feels impossible, but the night is not yet over. What will she do when the next dawn breaks? The door slammed shut behind her. Alice de Lacy stood in the dim chamber of Freen's manor, her wrists still raw from the ropes. The air smelled of damp stone and burning tallow. Hugh de Freen, her captor-turned husband, watched her from the shadows. His eyes moved over her slowly, like a man claiming stolen land. "You will come to accept this," he said, voice low and certain. "Every woman does." She lifted her chin. "Not every woman," she whispered, but her voice trembled. The fire in the hearth flickered, casting long shadows that seemed to close in around her. Defiance had a price. In the world of medieval nobility, a woman who said no paid dearly. Alice had already lost count of the nights she had lain awake, replaying the moment she was dragged from her horse. She was 54 now, a woman who had outlived husbands and hopes. Yet her wealth, lands in Lincoln, castles in Lancashire, made her a target still. The church promised protection. Canon law, as Pope Alexander III had ruled, allowed annulments if consent was forced. A marriage without free will was no marriage at all, but the law lived on parchment. In the real world, swords and greed ruled. Alice had fought once. After her first abduction, she had begged the king for justice. Edward II had listened. The marriage to John de Warenne was dissolved. Lands returned. For a brief moment, she breathed freely. Then came Eubulot Lestrange, a kinder man, perhaps a true choice. She married him quietly, hoping for peace. But death took him too. And then Hugh de Freen struck. He raided her convoy, carried her off, raped her in a cold tower room. The act was meant to seal the marriage forever. Consummation made annulment harder. The church might still grant it, but society would never forget. She would be whispered about, tainted. The emotional weight crushed her. Every morning she woke to the same truth. She was a prisoner in her own life. The dread from chapter 1 had deepened into something heavier. Despair. She walked the halls of her own castles like a ghost. Servants bowed, but their eyes avoided hers. Friends fell silent. Even her children, now grown, kept their distance. The anger that had once burned bright now smoldered, slow and painful. She had defied. She had lost. Yet not all stories ended in silence. Eleanor of Aquitaine had shown another path. After her annulment from Louis VII in 1152, she had ridden hard for Poitiers, evading 2 abduction attempts. Geoffrey of Anjou and Theobald of Blois had chased her, horses pounding, dust rising. Eleanor had outrun them. She had chosen Henry Plantagenet herself, young, fierce, future king. Their marriage was swift, passionate, powerful. It built an empire. In that choice, Eleanor turned a woman's vulnerability into strength. Alice had heard the tales. She clung to them in the dark. But hope was fragile. For most women, defiance brought worse chains. Widows like Alice faced repeated assaults. Chronicles record cases of heiresses abducted again and again. One lord would seize her, force marriage, then another would raid to take her from him. Each time, her lands were plundered, her body used. The stakes rose higher every time. Lose your freedom once, and you might lose it forever. Lose your children, your name, your future. Alice felt it all. She had petitioned the crown again, her words sharp with pain. I have been stripped of everything by treachery. The king granted her some relief. Phryne was punished. The marriage dissolved, but the scars remained. She never remarried. She lived out her days in quiet resistance, managing her estates, protecting her heirs. She became a symbol of endurance, not victory, endurance. The sensual undercurrents of power twisted through it all. Abductors did not just want land, they wanted the woman herself. The forbidden thrill of taking what was guarded, the heat of forcing submission. In the torchlit rooms, in the stolen moments, desire and violence blurred. Alice had felt it, the unwanted touch, the possessiveness in a man's gaze, the way her body could be turned against her. It was a dark, tangled dance, one that left her hollow. Modern eyes see the echo. Women today still face coercion dressed as love, gaslighting that makes them doubt their own will, systems that protect the powerful, public shaming that silences the victim. The despair is the same, the anger too, but so is the quiet resilience. Alice's story is not unique. It is the story of countless women who fought, who endured, who sometimes won small freedoms. As night fell over her manor, Alice stood at the window. Rain lashed the glass. She pressed her palm to the cold pane. The world outside was vast, indifferent. She had no more battles left in her. Yet she felt something stir. Not hope exactly, something harder, a refusal to break completely. In the distance, a horse's hooves sounded on the road. Another messenger, another threat. Alice did not flinch. She had learned the cost of defiance. She had paid it. And still, she stood. The rain fell harder. The chapter of her life was not yet closed. What would the next dawn bring?